Hi there, welcome to this video about ELC variable data types in youSRC. Now, if we take a look at the app that I've got on my screen at the moment, I've just got a local variable declared here called user_score, and I've got an assignment statement here which assigns a number to that, in this case 0, and I have an output using GFX WriteLine outputting the value of that variable to the screen. Now, when I declare a variable, like user_score in this case, it is automatically a number variable unless I put a $ at the end of it. Okay, so I know immediately, because there's no $ at the end of this user_score here, that this is a number variable. Okay, and that's why it's allowed me to assign a number value to it. Okay, so that's one of the data types that we have. Now, if I put a $ at the end of a variable name, it means that it's going to be used for storing strings. Now, a string is basically like a string of characters, which could be one or more characters that's stored together. So you might think of it as text, but in programming we call that a string value. Okay, so if let's say I wanted to store a user rating, so based on their score perhaps. So if I declare a variable here and call it user rating, and I add a $ to the end of that, then that means now that I can use that for strings. So I'm going to put under here, I'm going to assign its first value or initialize it. Okay, so user rating equal beginner, let's say. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm actually placing the value that I'm going to assign to this variable, I've placed it in speech marks, and that basically means that it's going to be treated as a string of characters. We actually call this, when we use a value like this inside of speech marks, we call it a string literal. Okay, and I'm placing that string inside of the user rating, or assigning that value to it. So if I now, as an example, copy and paste, and I want this to be user rating, okay, then this will be, well, let's have a look. So this is going to hopefully print out that value to the screen. So everything's fine there, and click on play, and we've got 0, which was the user score, and beginner, which was the rating. So that's all fine. So these are the two different data types for variables in ELC. So I'm going to go back here. So we've got numbers and strings. So just to confirm, a string variable has a $ at the end. Okay, and a number variable doesn't. So quite simple. Now, just to be sort of very clear about how this works, let's see if we came in here and said, well, I'm going to see what happens to my program if I break the rules. Okay, if I don't put a number value into user score, let's see what happens. So straight away, because I've obviously set it up as a number variable, I'm trying to put a string value into it, I get this little hand here, okay, and I get this thing here. So this says, found a problem near line 10, expected a number variable or a number after the equals in the let statement. So that sort of makes sense. It's there saying, well, on line 10, in the let statement, after the equals, I'm expecting a number, but obviously I didn't get that. So let's have a look. So let's just go back. So line 10 is there, here's my let statement, after the equals it's expecting a number. So it's been quite clear. And let's see what happens if I try it the other way around with the string variable this time. So if I save that source and check, okay, so this time it's line 11, and expected a word variable or words after the equals in the let statement. So that's again been quite clear. Okay, so if I put that back to how it was now. Okay, now it's often good practice as you're learning programming to do little things like that to actually see what happens if you do it wrong. The reason being then is that we find errors, okay, and we start to understand what the error messages actually mean if they come up in our program, so that when we actually do make mistakes when we're actually coding our program, we're able to understand what the message means and fix it quicker. So it's often good practice, as I say, as you're learning, just to do these things so that and to break your program sometimes intentionally, just to see what actually happens and how it works, and it helps your understanding a little bit better. So that is ELC variable data types in youSRC.